ladies and gentlemen. You can kind of see the light streaming through on the wall here because of my blinds. I got them all folded weirdly over here. Thank you all so much for joining me on this absolutely beautiful 6:48 p.m. Sun is trying to set, but not quite there yet. Thank you for being here, clicking on the video, showing up, and of course stopping in. Today we are listening to the 7th studio album by Laura Marling. We've listened to some music from her previously. I've personally listened to her album I Speak Because I Can, and I really enjoy that album. And like I said, we've listened to a few other tracks here and there from her. But we're going to take a look and a listen at this full album, Song for Our Daughter. We're listening to this because it was sponsored and suggested by Sheldon. So Sheldon, thank you so much for that, for the support, and of course for the sponsorship. Ain't no skin off my back listening to some more from Miss Marling. And I also see that this album had been suggested by Aldo and Lindsey Brown as well. So thank you all so much for the suggestion. Let's see. I think there may have been some more people that recommended this, but I actually might be missing your names. Actually, I think there were. I actually just didn't scroll down far enough, but maybe not quite. Not 100% sure. Anyways, I know you three. So thank you so much for the suggestion, for the recommendation. We're going to go ahead and dive in to the album here. The first track, Alexandra, I got it pulled up, ready to dive into. What do you have to sip on? Just some H2, little classic H2O. Listen, if it's not like a weekend and it's not like a morning or anything like that, I try to keep it just water only. You know, I don't really drink a lot of soda at all, like twice a month kind of thing. Water is where it's at. So anyways, press that like button before we continue. Subscribe if you haven't already and you're interested. Patreon's there. Buy Me a Coffee's there. All those things, all the plugs. Plug yourself before you plug others. And without further ado, my friends, let us go ahead and journey into the album with the first song, Alexandra. And as always, this sip of deliciously crisp filtered water, because you can't drink water out the faucet here in Florida, is to you. I just hit my hat. Okay, here we go.
What became of Alexandra? Did she make it through? What kind of woman gets to love you? Wrote us all a little note, nothing left to lose. What kind of woman gets to love you? I need to know, where did Alexandra go? Alexandra had no fear. She lived out in the woods. She'll tell you what you're doing wrong if she thinks she'll be understood. Pulls her socks up to her knees, finds diamonds in the drain. One more diamond to add to her chain.
Nice depth in the bass part of the drum.
I need to know, where does Alexandra go?
Love that part.
Where did Alexandra go? It won't change how I'm feeling. You can try to help me understand. If she loved you like a woman, did you feel like a man? I need to know, where did Alexandra
I like how perfectly it flows into the
Where
chorus.
did Alexandra go? You had to say, you shared to burn. You could not bear the unsaid. I had to try a fuck to give. Why should I die?
It's a lovely opening to the album. So, I mean, first of all, let's get comparisons out the way, just to at least get them out the way. Marling has a wonderful voice, and her approach in some respects, I can't help but say is reminiscent a little bit of Joni Mitchell, but at the same time, it's not, right? In a lot of songs, Joni has a very almost conversational, kind of almost off the dome stream of conscious kind of flow in what she presents and her delivery. We're not quite getting that exactly here with Miss Marling, but we're getting almost a hint of that, just a hint. The expressions come across in a similar hue, in a similar color, but Marling kind of keeps things to herself and for herself as she approaches the music. I love how wonderfully textured this whole thing is with the slide guitar, the really nice depth of the drums in here, especially when it comes to the kick drum. There's a nice, like I said, a wonderful depth to that, which kind of helps give it this nice resounding kind of sound for something that is, in a way, so musically intimate at the same time. I really, really enjoyed that. And every time it flowed into the chorus, where did Alexandra go? Like the way it came from kind of off the edge of the verse and led down into the waterfall of the chorus, I thought was really, really nice. And every time it flowed so wonderfully. But that bridge was fantastic. There is a little bit of drama that's added there, of course, lyrically, but even musically. The notes and the direction slightly change. There's a little bit of a feeling of spite, perhaps, as well, that kind of emerges from that brief moment before it goes back to the chorus to kind of rectify itself. And the words change, of course, as well. Now, let's kind of dive into the lyrics because I'm not 100% sure where we're at with this one, but we're going to find out. What became of Alexandra? Did she make it through? What kind of woman gets to love you? Wrote us all a little note, nothing left to lose. What kind of woman gets to love you? So in my mind, I'm first thinking, is Alexandra a person, a place, or perhaps a metaphor for something? Because, what kind of woman gets to love you, of course, could be a person loving Alexandra, but could also be a person loving a place, I need to know, where did Alexandra go? Now, if we're taking this literally as a person, or at least a metaphor of a person, where did this person go? Well, she left a note for everybody. Alexandra left a note. Nothing left to lose, so Alexandra's gone. She's going and doing whatever she's doing. Alexandra had no fear. She lived out in the woods. She'd tell you what you're doing wrong if she thinks she'll be understood. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of personality here. Pulls her socks up to her knees, finds diamonds in the drain. One more diamond to add to her chain. So almost like she can find the beauty anywhere. She can find whatever the diamonds represent anywhere. She can find something so rich and worthy in something as, dirty or trashy as a drain. I need to know, where does Alexandra go? Where did she go? So there's a change here in the chorus. First, where did she go? Now, where does she go? And a repetition of where did she go? It won't change how I'm feeling. You can try to help me understand. If she loved you like a woman, did you feel like a man? I actually, the lines start to get a little bit more cryptic in the sense, here's how I'm reading this. This is going to be obvious, but I got to say it. I feel like Marling, this is going to sound dumb. Laura knows exactly what she's talking about. I feel like she knows exactly what she's writing about, who she's writing about, and what she's writing about. And she almost gives us hints, a framework lyrically of that, so that we can almost come to our own conclusion. But at the same time, I feel like we'll never quite get the answer because only Laura knows the answer. You had to say your S to bed. You could not bear the unsaid. I had to try a F to give. Why should I die so you can live? So now there's a little bit of a, like I said, this is when the music becomes more spiteful, obviously. And there's almost a harboring of ill feeling now towards Alexandra. Like Alexandra's supposed, this is just what I'm kind of gathering. Someone that's looked towards and in some ways held up to a certain standard. Everybody looks to Alexandra. She paves her own way. She does her own thing. Where did she go? Where did she go? Who knows? But at the same time, while there's this kind of mystical quality to her, She's saying, like, you know, you couldn't bear the unsaid. You couldn't bear to just leave things unsaid. And I had to care. I had to try to care about you. And why should I die so you can live? Now, I don't view that necessarily literally, but why should I be hurt just so that you can apparently run off and enjoy your life or whatever that may be? And I haven't looked at the Wikipedia page for this. Is this a concept album? Because for all we know, Alexandra could be Laura's mom. Perhaps she was abandoned in some capacity, or the mom left. Hold on. Let's see. The album's title is Figurative, with Marling writing to a fictional daughter. Okay. She's writing to a fictional daughter. I don't want to read too much about this just yet. I want to keep a little bit of. I like to interpret myself before diving in, but that could be like a little twist. What did Alexandra know? Let's look. It says on the Kyle Meredith with podcast, Marling says this is sort of a response to Leonard Cohen's Alexandra leaving. If you don't mind me, I'm just going to do a quick Google search on that one. Let's pull up Leonard Cohen's Alexandra leaving. All I'm doing is pulling up the lyrics for it. Never heard the song. Let's see. I want to read the information. I don't want to read the poem right just yet. Let's see. Cohen posted a message. He says, "I'm very sorry that I neglected to cite Constantine P. Cavafy and his great poem, The God Forsakes Anthony, as the inspiration for my song. However, the credit got left out of my liner notes, although I did make the connection clear in many interviews." It says, "That work touched me for many years." Here's the poem here. It says, Cavafy is a Greek poet. This piece is based on Plutarch's story of Antony in the city of Alexandria, when he was forsaken by his protector, god Bacchus. That's a good god. That's the party one. Cohen's version, appropriately written in the Greek island of Hydra, turns the story into the description of a woman named Alexandra, forsaking the narrator. Okay, so Laura's version is almost a response to that. What did Alexandra know? Okay. We're putting the pieces together. The picture may not be formed yet, but the picture's there. Let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be Held Down. Here we go.
Yeah.
The slide there is much more ghostly.
I woke up, it was 4 in the morning, clear as all hell that you'd already gone. You know it's sad, dear, you know I hate to disappear, but the days are short and the nights are getting long.
That vocal layer is gorgeous.
And I just meant to tell you that I don't want to let you down. And I just meant to tell you that I don't want to get you wrong. Think about now with my legs wrapped around you, how many times before have you seen me run? It's a cruel kind of twist that you'd leave like this, just drop my wrist and say, well, that's us done. I was just gonna tell you that I don't want to let you down.
That's good.
Get lost in the crowd, seen unseen.
I like our her voice delivery change with the guitar.
Say what you mean. You sent me a book, but you gave half a look, but I just don't care for, and I cannot get through. You're writing again, and I'm glad, old friend, to make sure you write me out of where you get to.
that
You
space.
know it said, dear, you know I hate to disappear, but the days are short and the nights are getting long. And I just mean to tell you that I don't want to be let down. Get lost in the crowd, seen and unseen. Say what you mean.
Okay, hear me out. Obviously a great song, right? But just one really quick thing I want to mention because I think I'm going to forget it if I if I don't say it now. So the way that the climax of the song happens, it's like a quick climax and then it just ends. It just fades out. It's gone, right? And I think that is so perfect in how it captures the actual story that's happening in the lyrics, where there's a relationship happening and then before she knows it, as she says right here in the lyrics, I woke up, it was 4 a.m, clear as hell that you'd already gone. Your note said, dear, you know I hate to disappear, but the days are short and the nights are long. So he's gone, boom, he's out of there. And just like that, the beauty and the spark of the chorus, which is gorgeous, it's just gone. It fades out, it disappears, just like him. I think that that is such a really cool stroke of, what I think is just great songwriting and bringing and marrying the message with the composition. I think that was really well done. Okay, so that was cool. I had to get that point out before I forgot because that's one of those things I think about, but then it's gone if I go on to other things. Ooh, the structure in the verse specifically is great. There's an attitude, there's a drive in the verse. Da, 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 right? And I think that's not only obviously driven by Marling, but also the bass. The bass is going to be performed by Nick Peeney. Love his bass playing here. It kind of adds a driving tension there. So you have that rhythm, and then it opens up into space, and layers of Marling's voice just cascading and growing on top of each other like vines climbing for the sun, and it just sounds so gorgeous. And I like how that piece of structure repeats so well, and to me is always inviting. It always is welcome. I always want to hear that. Especially those gorgeous ending with her notes. And then when it moves into the chorus, it once again becomes a little bit more direct, but still retaining a lot of the atmosphere that she's captured in there. Eventually going to have Anna Corcoran on the piano joining in and just adding a few notes, a few chords in there on the second half of this track to kind of give it a little bit of a different life. That was just really, really nice. I really loved her singing, though, those harmonies and those layers. That was just rich. Let's get back into these lyrics, though. I woke up, it was 4 a.m, clear as all hell that you'd already gone. Your note said, dear, you know that I hate to disappear, but the days are short and the nights are long. So, of course, it begins the same exact way that we heard and read that it ends. And I just meant to tell you that I don't want to let you down. I just meant to tell you that I don't want to get you wrong. Think about now with my legs wrapped around you. How many times before have you seen me run? It's a cruel kind of twist that you'd leave me like this. Just drop my wrist and say, well, that's us done. So obviously there's a little bit of that going on, but we want more. She wants more out of this, not just wham, bam. She wants more than this, right? And I like how you can already tell from the structure of the lyrics how this is a, for lack of a better word, vicious cycle, right? Like I said, it begins the same way that it ends. Waking up, he's gone, leaving a note. Hey, gotta go, right? But in between that is the story. In between that is, like I said, think about now. Now, present, my legs wrapped around you. How many times have you seen me run? That's the question. How many times have you seen me run the same way that you run after the deed, right? You sent me a book, which I gave half a look, but I just don't care for it and I cannot get through. But you're writing again, and I'm glad, old friend. I'll make sure you write me out of where you get to. So wherever you end up in your story, I want no part of that. That is really fantastic. I just want to tell you, or I was just going to tell you that I don't want to let you down. Get lost in the crowd, seen or unseen, say what you mean. Like I was going to tell you this, but Not anymore. Get out of here, Jack. Don't come back. No more, no more, no more. Okay. Let's move on into the next one, which is Strange Girl. Here we go. It's a nice change.
Get all your records out and throw them all away. No one left to listen to, much less to say. Working hard and getting on, still not getting paid. Stay low, keep brave.
Nice sparky guitar.
Woke up in a country who refused to hold your hand. Kept falling for narcissists to insist you call them man. You work late for a job you hate, which never fit the plan. Stay low, keep brave.
Loving that extra melody comes on.
I love you, my strange girl, my lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave. I love you, my strange girl, my lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave. Build yourself a garden and have something to attend.
That's a good line.
Cut off all relations cause you could not stand your friends. Announce yourself a socialist to have something to defend. Oh, young girl, please don't bullshit me. I love you, my strange girl, my lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave. I love you, my strange girl.
That's playful too.
Lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave. Change how you feel. It's good to break the seal and blow us both away. It's changing all the time, and it starts to blur the line that's supposed to keep you safe. And you roll like a tidal wave.
That rules like a one.
And you roll like a tidal wave. I love you, my strange girl, my lonely
See, she just effortlessly flows into the chorus.
my angry girl, my brave. I love you, my strange girl, my lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave.
This one definitely brings that very upbeat, folky kind of sound where you can't help but stomp your feet and clap your hands. This is the ba da da. You can't see my feet, but a little bit clap. You know, strange girl. You know? Almost has a slight gospel sound in the actual chorus itself and the way that she sings it. But, you know, without any choir or anything like that. But here, just giving some folky goodness. Some very strong, positive, noted, striking guitar in here as well. I like how on the end of each of the measures, how a second guitar comes in, I'm assuming overdubbed on top of it. And just kind of adds a little bit of a bright spark to the end. Like a little sparkler in your hand. And then it goes back into the round of it all. The break where, once again, we're getting a nice showcase of her vocals, but also the layering of her own vocals on top of each other, that dubbing. Because in that break, she sounds really, really gorgeous. You can hear that massive, well, not massive, but like that one sustained note from her. And then very smartly, she kind of overdubs, or in a sense, underdubs, and kind of adds little bits of layers of her own voice underneath it. So that was kind of cool because unlike the previous track where those layers of vocals go on top of each other so obviously, this is like one straight note and then a little bit of subtle underdub in there as well, which I thought was really, really nice. Like I said, that bass and the drums, the percussion, once you hear that, you're already off onto a folk dance. The percussion and the drums are going to be handled by Dan C. And I see him. I see Dan. Really wonderful. what's happening on there. And you also have Ethan Johns, I see, on the drums. And he is actually handling a lot of other things as well. The Continuum fingerboard, resonator guitar, shaker, Moog, production and mixing as well. So, but I really like the drumming and the percussion element as well. Just kind of nice and moving everything along. Let's take a look at these lyrics. Get all your records out and throw them all away. No one left to listen to, much left, less to say. Working hard and getting on, still not getting paid. Stay low, keep brave. Woke up in a country who refused to hold your hand. Kept falling for narcissists who insist you call them man. You work late for a job you hate, and that's never fit the plan. Stay low, keep brave. Listen, sometimes you gotta work your way through the muck to find something else. I love you, my strange girl, my lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave. I love you, my strange girl, my lonely girl, my angry girl, my brave. Now, this is just how I read it, and perhaps it's because I'm just comparing everything to the title of the album. In a way, I view this as like a mother talking to her daughter and saying, there's going to be some stuff you're just going to have to get through. Life isn't all roses. You're going to have to pull some weeds. But keep brave, stay low, you'll get through it. And just so you know, like she says, I love you, my strange girl. Yeah, you're a little strange. You used to put pennies up your nose. My lonely girl. Listen, I understand that sometimes you're lonely, right? My angry girl. Sometimes you're angry at things. My brave girl. Like the positive reinforcement. Like all these things that you are, both the good and maybe the not so good. No matter what, I love you. Build yourself a garden and have something to attend. Cut off all... I like that line, by the way. Because that, in a sense, that solves the lonely problem to an extent, right? Maybe not with people, but build yourself something that you have to attend, right? Like give yourself something to do, something to focus on. Cut off all relations because you could not stand your friends. Announce yourself a socialist to have something to defend. I love that. Oh, young girl, please don't BS me. Like don't try and play the games with me. Don't try to play the games with me. I like that. Announce yourself something perhaps controversial just so you have something to defend and perhaps you'll get some attention, right? And it repeats, of course, the lyrics or the chorus again. Changed how you feel. It's good to break the seal and blow us both away. Gets a changing all the time and it starts to blur the line that's supposed to keep you safe. And you roll like a tidal wave and you roll like a tidal wave. Even, like I said, her vocals at that point kind of sounded like a little bit of a wave, the way that they collapsed onto each other there. So I think that, she says it, but I really view this as a song saying like a word of encouragement, but realistic encouragement to, even if not a daughter, just someone perhaps younger, a child or a teenager, an adolescent, a young adult. Like it's okay to break the seal, to blur the lines. It's okay to be alone. It's okay to get through this, because you will get through this. And throughout all this, I love you still. At least that's how I read it. Let's move on into the next track. I don't know why I went into that accent. Only the Strong. Here we go.
Only the strong survive. Only the strong survive. Only the wrong relive their lives.
That's a good line.
We've been here 1,000 times. Wish I could go back and find letters I wrote you in my mind. Perhaps I could unnoticed from this awful bind. Most I have forgot or over-refined. Love is a sickness cured by time.
What a perfect build-up.
Love is a sickness cured by time. Bruises all and out benign.
Now the bass coming, that's such a perfect build-up.
Love is a sickness cured by time. I hope that you can change my mind. Had to leave this crying all behind. I hope that you don't think that I'm unkind. So somebody told me only and only the strong will survive.
I love how everything just came in so perfectly sequential.
Only the strong survive. And I won't write a woman with a man on my mind. Hope that didn't sound too unkind. Just struggling to figure out how only the strong can survive. Hope that you can change my mind. I had to leave this crying all behind. I hope that you don't think that I'm unkind. So somebody told me only and only the strong can survive.
Okay, we're coming up to the halfway mark in the album, and I think that this is, slightly ironically, I guess, the strongest song on the album so far. Because, hear me out, when it first started, don't laugh, it's just personal preference. When it first started, I said, okay, we're gonna get the quiet song. We're getting the quiet, emotional song, you know, Marling and the guitar, and it's just gonna be a straight acoustic piece. Which, I'll be honest, on my time, I'm not always a huge fan of. Sometimes it just comes across, while it can be very emotional and everything, just a little boring, if I'm just being straight, right? Okay. But the way that this track transformed and grew so wonderfully and organically, so deliberate in its movement. The drums, so once again, that's going to be Ethan Johns on the drums here, or Dancy, one of the two. The way that the drums came in felt so deliberate in like everything that came in with it. First, kick, snare, kick, snare. Eventually, you sounded what I believe was the shaker coming in just a little bit. That or a brush, but I want to say it's probably a shaker. And then eventually, you heard a little hi-hat. You just heard a little bit. It's like, oh, it's there. Which, by the way, great production on the drum set because the openness of the actual song gave a lot of room for the drums to have that kind of entrance where it was subtle but powerful. And that's where all of this is. It's subtle but powerful. The harmonies, taking away the drums for a second, but the gorgeous humming from her was also really subtle but powerful. And the way that all of this grew and built itself into a fully realized piece of music was just, I think, expertly done. And then by the time it gets to the bridge, it's like a nice little sunburst of explosion of emotion and passion, and then it quiets its way back down. I just thought the way that everything entered, the bass, Nick Pini, once again, the way that the bass entered, it felt impactful, but not like a meteor crashing into the music. It felt like a little heartbeat, powerful and emotional. You know, it's just really, really wonderful. I really like how this took something that I expected and turned it on its head. You know, it became what I think is, at this point, at least the strongest track on this album. Only the strong survive, only the strong survive, only the wrong relive their lives. We've been here 1,000 times. I love this line. Only the wrong relive their lives. When you think you've done something wrong and you've made the wrong decision, you look back and you let that haunt you forever. Man, I should have done this. I could have done that. Listen, there's 2 times to plant a tree, or best times to plant a tree. 10 years ago or today. Or however that quote goes. Wish I could go back and find, and then immediately she does what she's saying, right? So she's saying in a sense that she's wrong because she's wishing she'd go back. Letters I wrote you in my mind. Perhaps I could unknot us from this awful bind. Most I forgot or over-refined. So who is she talking to? Love is a sickness cured by time. Love is a sickness cured by time. Bruises all end up benign. I hope that you can change my mind. Had to leave this crying all behind. I hope that you don't think that I'm unkind. So somebody told me, only the strong survive. I view this, I cannot help but think of the album title. She's daughter talking to mother. Perhaps mom told her, only the strong survive. And perhaps there wasn't a great emotional connection there. And so she found herself crying a lot, this awful bind that they have. And maybe it's not necessarily a mother-daughter bind, but maybe it's the bad relationship, a bad cord that's binding them. Love is a sickness cured by time. That's a harsh line, huh? And she even says, I hope that you can change my mind. Only the strong survive, and I won't write a woman with a man on my mind. I won't write a woman with a man on my mind. Is she saying like she won't write a letter? Because she mentions this before, right? Letters I wrote you in my mind, right? I won't write a woman. I won't write to you with a man on my mind. Like write to you, but perhaps having someone else in mind. Hope that didn't sound too unkind. Just struggling to figure out how only the strong survive. I love that line. Trying to figure out how only the strong survive. She's been told this, but she's trying to understand it. Hope that you can change my mind. I had to leave all this crying behind. Hope that you don't think I'm unkind. It's just somebody told me. Yeah, you. Only and only the strong survive. That's good. Let's see if there's anything down here. Only the strong outlines the process of the speaker, potentially Laura, leaving an unhealthy and abusive relationship of an unknown subject. I view this to a parent, specifically to a mom in here, but maybe that's just because I got the song title in mind. That's a good one, though. That's good. I think that's, so far, best track. Move on to the next one, Blow by Blow. Is this Jeff Beck?
I don't know what else to say. I think I did my best. Mama's on the phone already talking to the press.
What's the story?
Tell them that I'm doing fine. Underplay distress. I'm working out a story and there's so much to address.
I'm sensing abuse.
Note by note, blow by blow, seeing it all laid out. I should have known. I don't know what else to say. I think I'm doing fine. Trying to figure out what I will do with all my time. Tell them anything you like, I'll own up to what's mine. Knowing thunder gives away what lightning tries to hide.
That's a good line.
No one was prepared. We all perform like we'd done it all before. Note by note, bruise by bruise. Sometimes the hardest thing to learn is what you get from what you lose. So do you, for believing it could work out like some things do.
So we continue down the emotional path from the previous track and into this track. And I could even argue that there's a little bit of a thematic connection if we're going along with what I'm, once again, just going along with is the mother theme, the mother-daughter theme, the mother-daughter bad relationship theme, the mother-daughter bad relationship abuse now theme. The music is wonderfully bare. There's strings, very light piano, Laura just singing emotionally here, right? That's nice. Putting that aside. Let's get into the lyrics because that's where the focus on this one is. Like, the music is nice. The music is with this type of song, with these type of lyrics and this type of message, the music is nice, but the focus and the heart is definitely in here. It doesn't take, unless I'm somehow completely wrong, it doesn't take many lines to figure out what's happening. And I think that is such a visceral story that's happening and a visceral, unfortunate reality that's being, explained here. But the way that Laura writes this, I think is just incredible. I don't know what else to say. I think I did my best. Isn't that kind of funny? Not the topic, but like, I don't know what else to say. That's how we start the song with this line. I don't know what else to say, but there is a lot to say, right? I don't know what else to say. I think I did my best. Mama's on the phone already talking to the press. Tell them that I'm doing fine. Underplay distress. I'm working out a story, and there's so much to address. Now, like I said, if mom's talking to the press, something's happening. And if from a daughter's perspective, because she says, Mama, tell them I'm doing fine, underplay distress, we know something nefarious is happening. And I can't help but view this as, of course, like a child, a young child going through this situation. And that mom, in this abusive relationship said, tell them this, tell them that, get your story right, get the facts straight, the facts. And that's exactly what's happening here. Note by note, blow by blow, seeing it all laid out, I should have known. From what I understand, those who are in, abusive relationships of any kind can sometimes not realize that they're in that situation, in that relationship or that abuse. So it's so bare when she writes, seeing it all laid out, I should have known. That's where that strong visceral feeling of how to explain it. And not like I'm dumb, not like that. But sometimes the victim can have that kind of reaction where, wow, I should have known. Once they get out of that, once they see it all laid out, and then feeling bad, that's where a lot of depression can begin to stem from. How did I not see this sooner? How did I not? And then it goes on and on, that self-harm, right? And so how I'm reading this, and of course I could be mistaken, I'm reading this we're at the end of this particular situation of abuse. And the daughter is writing note by note. She is writing out, in a sense, these notes. Perhaps literal, to send to someone to help her, or just for herself to eventually get her out of this situation. Note by note, and of course, blow by blow. Each of those blows that happen, every instance of abuse, she's taking note. Once again, I don't know what else to say. I think I'm doing fine. There's a repetition from the first verse, but on the first one, she says, I think I did my best. Now I think I'm doing fine, right? Time perhaps has passed. Trying to figure out what I will do with all my time. Why does she have so much time now? I don't think Mama's in the picture anymore. Tell them anything you like. I'll own up what's mine. Knowing thunder gives away what lightning tries to hide. This is such a powerful twofer right here. Tell them anything you like. I'll own up to what's mine. The daughter or the child is taking some sort of responsibility that is probably not earned whatsoever for the abuse that was happening. But still having a little bit of that mentality of maybe it's my fault that mom's beating me and doing this. But she says, like I said, this is at the end of this situation from what I can tell. I'll own up to what's mine, because if I can own up to this part, if I reveal a little thunder, then what lightning tries to hide, what mom tries to hide, it's all going to be out in the open soon. No one was prepared, but we all performed like we'd done it all before. So perhaps she's not alone in this abuse. Perhaps there's siblings or other people, other children involved. Note by note, bruise by bruise, of course, changing from the blow by blow. Now time has passed from blows active, right? Now to bruises, those reminders. Sometimes the hardest thing to learn is what you get from what you lose. So what has she lost in this abusive relationship? What hasn't she in many ways? I feel a fool, so do you, for believing it could work out like some things do. Maybe in her mind, through these situations and these happenstances, she said, maybe we can still work this out. Maybe mom and I can still figure this out. And then she says, like some things do. Sometimes, I suppose, things work out, sure. But I feel like even after the situation, after I'm assuming mama's put away and whatever's happened, there's still a little part of her. There's a little something in her mind that's saying, was this the right move? That's powerful. That's why I said the music. Yeah, that's fine. That's nice. But this is where it's at. Let's go ahead and move on to the next track, which is the title track. That will be Song for Our Daughter. Here we go.
Though they may want you to tread in their trail, only to see if the path they set fails. Though they may want you to take off your clothes, whatever they think that the action exposed. With your clothes on the floor, taking advice from some old balding boy, you'll ask yourself, did I want this at all? Do you remember what I said? The book I left by your bed, the words that some survivor read. Lately I've been thinking about our daughter growing old. All of the bullshit that she might be told. There's blood on the floor. Maybe now you believe her for sure. She remembers what I said. The book I left by your bed, the words that some survivor read.
That's nice.
Though they may take you for all you had left, you won't be forgotten for what you had not done yet.
10-4.
So you wished for a kiss from God, and you mourned in your childish loss. Innocence gone, but it's not forgot. You cut your way through it somehow. You remember what I said. The book you left by your bed, the words that will outlive the
I like this little almost like trifecta of emotionally powerful songs, because I feel like I'm not going to make this pun, but I feel like we're getting like just like all these moments, like pop, 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 like these big moments, so emotional. I love the strings in here. I think the strings coming in where they did is also very noteworthy. We'll dive into that. But the strings here are going to be arranged and performed by Rob Moose. Now, looking at Rob in his Wikipedia page, he says an American multi-instrumentalist, arranger, producer, conductor, and orchestrator. Let's see. I just want to see who he's worked with. He's worked with the Decemberists. Okay. Interpol, the National, St. Vincent, Bon Iver. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Phoebe Bridgers. Taylor Swift, Laura Marling, Alabama Shakes, John Legend, Perfume Genius. A lot of different artists there. And I like the sensitivity that he brings to the strings here. I like how in its most powerful moments, he, of course, arises to that specific occasion. The little bit of piano, of course, on the very end as well, nicely trailing along with it. I think that was just a really nice wrap up there. The way that Laura sings here is once again very direct and very forward. And I like how even though there's room in many ways throughout these tracks for some sort of poetic interpretation, there's always a direction. It's like I mentioned in the other song, she's steering us in a specific direction, but she's not going to tell us where the gold is. You know, this is like the Great British Bake Off. You know, when they have to recreate some sort of dessert or whatever, that's when they give them the directions, but they don't tell them exactly the amounts and everything. You know, she gives us the direction. She tells us eggs, milk, and a little flour, but she doesn't tell us how much. And I like that, like how it gives us, the listener, something to look for, something that's rewarding if we find it on its own. But the lyrics here are once again so intensely personal and wonderfully written. So obviously, song for our daughter. So we are listening to this and reading the lyrics as such. Though they may want you to tread in their trail, only to see if the path they set fails. Though they may want you to take off your clothes, whatever they think that the action exposed. With your clothes on the floor, taking advice from some old balding bore, you'll ask yourself, did I want this at all? So I like how Laura, to her daughter here, doesn't mince any words. You know, I'm a man, so I don't know the world that women live in. But this does give a little bit of an insight into being taken advantage, right, by someone. As she says, some old balding bore. And perhaps she was promised this and given this and said, oh yeah, you can have this, you know, whatever that may be. And then with her clothes on the floor, obviously being taken advantage of, saying, did I want this at all? Then, this is such a cool moment in the chorus. Do you remember what I said? The book I left by your bed. The words that some survivor read. There's two things that I think are really interesting about this chorus, okay? The first thing, when this comes up, this offers hope. Right? Do you remember what I said? What did mom say? Oh yeah. At that moment, that's when those strings first start to sneak in, almost as if recalling that memory, almost as if that hope is now actually becoming. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this might be me just thinking too far into it and trying to make a concept album or a thematic album out of what may or may not be. But hear me out. She says the words that some survivor read. If I could control B that and make that bold, I would. Survivor. There's another song that mentions only the strong, the lyrics, survive, right? Could there be a connection here? This is a mother passing on advice to her daughter. Could this be? Let me pull you back. Let me get back to it here. Only the strong. Could this be only the strong survive? And remember at the end of this, she said, it's just somebody told me only the strong can survive. And here she's trying to figure out how to do it. Could the mom here have succeeded in figuring out how the strong survive? And so now has written this book in Song for Our Daughter, teaching and passing on that knowledge to her. That deserves. Please clap. Lately, I've been thinking about our daughter. Now she's talking to her partner, the father of the child, growing old. All the BS that she might be told. there's blood on the floor, maybe now you'll believe her for sure. So once again, I think this is so cool because once again, I'm a man. I don't understand a lot of things that women go through. And perhaps she's saying, right, she's talking to the husband or the partner or the man or whoever, right? I've been thinking about our daughter, all the stuff that she has to go through. And perhaps he's dismissive of it. He's like, no, she doesn't have to worry about that. No, she's fine. And then Laura says, now there's blood on the floor. Maybe now you'll believe her for sure. Why does it take that for someone to believe something like this? That's good. She remembers what I said, the book I left by her bed, the words that some survivor read. Right? The knowledge being passed on still harkens back to only the strong. I'm just saying. I'll die on that hill. Though they may take you for all you had left, you won't be forgotten for what you had not done yet. So you wished for a kiss from God, and you mourned in your childish loss. Innocence gone, but it's not forgot. You'll get your way through it somehow. You remember what I said, the book you left by your bed. See, there's a change. The words that will outlive the dead. There's his ownership. The book you left by your bed. She kept that book, those words, that knowledge, that experience passed down from generations. She's kept it by her bed. I'm sorry, but that...
Please clap.
That's excellent. That is brilliant songwriting. I think that is just... That's good. Let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be Fortune. This is a rewarding album to listen to, huh?
You took out that money that your mama had saved. She told me she kept it for running away. Oh my, fortunes can change. You've picked up some tricks that you learned on your way.
I love the way she bounces on that rhythm.
For fear you'd be lonely if you never changed. Oh my, you lost your faith. We landed on rocks and that's partly to blame. We wandered the landscape in this unbearable pain. Oh my, your fortune can change. At least we agree that we've wasted our time. We'll give up the hope that we'll meet down the line. Better off measured in coffee and wine. I think on it fondly now the truth can be told. Some love is ancient and it lives on in your soul. A fortune that never grows old. You spent all that money that your mama had saved. Told me she kept it for running away. Never quite found the right way to say, I'm sorry, my darling, my mind, it has been changed. Release me from this unbearable pain. And so ends a story I had hoped to change. I had to release us from this unbearable pain and promise we won't come here again.
Listening to this album is such an interesting experience because this is going to sound bad what I'm going to say, but I don't mean it that way. It's exhausting in some ways. It's emotionally exhausting. And I mean that in the best way possible. I think you understand that. Like it's you have to invest yourself into this. If you just put this on in the background, it's a lovely sounding album with great melodies, beautiful singing, and like great instrumentation, right? Sure. But to invest yourself in it, you're going to get a lot back out of it. And here, the gentleness of the guitar picking is still, yes, gentle, but at the same time, poignant, or however you say that word. It still has, once again, how I say it, a very clear, concise direction. There's poetry being spoken, but there's a story, there's a message, there's a theme. And I love how, we've mentioned the strings before in the previous track, but here, they back off almost as if an inhale, and then they blow out and exhale. And I like how the song actually kind of has a breathing rhythm to it and the way that it pulses in and out. And I think the strings are a huge part of that. Once again, very lovely singing from her. I think the strings are kind of the key to me, but I love the guitar picking in here. And kind of, once again, the lyrics are really a big focus on this one. I couldn't help but see, by the way, on this one. And I haven't been looking I should have been, to be honest. I kind of forgot about them. I haven't been looking at the interview stuff because that's what I actually like to look at to see where the music or the message came from. But I've forgotten to do it. But I couldn't help but see this. The song was inspired by the revelation that her music teacher, mother, used to keep a running away fund in case she ever felt the need to flee the family. I've never heard of that. I don't know if that's a typical thing. Or perhaps if the family is not, for lack of a better word, all there. Maybe there's some issues in the family. Maybe that's needed, right? You took out that money that your mama had saved. She told me she kept it for running away. Oh my, fortunes can change. You've picked up some tricks that you learned on your way, for fear you'd be lonely if you never change. Oh my, you lost your faith. We landed on rocks, and that's partly to blame. We wandered the landscape in this unbearable pain. Oh my, your fortune can change. Things can change, situations can change, but she's also saying that she lost her faith. At least we agree that we've wasted our time. We'll give up the hope that we'll meet down the line. Better off measured in coffee and wine. Like they'll meet for dinner or meet for breakfast or at a cafe, but that's it. There's no actual relationship there. It's just kind of happenstance situations and meetings with each other. I think on it fondly, now the truth can be told. Some love is ancient and it lives on in your soul. A fortune that never grows old. You spent all that money that your mama had saved, told me she kept it for running away. Never quite found the right way to say, I'm sorry, my darling. My mind, it has been changed. Release me from this unbearable pain. So there's the honesty. But she never quite found the right way to say that. And so ends a story I had hoped to change. I had to release us from this unbearable pain and promise we won't come here again. So perhaps this had to be ended. This relationship had to be cut off. It was a toxic relationship in some ways. Let's read some of the info down here. From Laura, I was having dinner with my sisters one night, and my eldest sister said, do you remember that our mother used to keep 1-pound coins in a pot above the washing machine? And I was like, oh yeah. It added up to about 350 pounds or something. By no means enough to run away with, but that was her collection over a lifetime. And I just thought that was so tragic in a perfect way that generations attempt at carving out their own little bit of freedom. I never thought about a running away fund, but I guess I could see that. I mean, it's not even related at all. Never mind, it's not even related. Whenever I get stuck in a rut or feel uninspired in the guitar, I go and play with my dad, who taught me. I think that's really sweet. He was playing this little melody, so I stole it and then turned it into this song. I'm very close with my sisters, and at the time we were talking and reminiscing about the fact that my mother had a running away fund. She kept 2 pence pieces in a pot above the lunch machine when we were growing up. She had recently cashed it in to see how much money she had, and she had built up something to like 75 pounds over the course of a lifetime. That was her running away fund, and I thought it was so tragic. She said she did it because her mother did it. It was hereditary. See, there's a little bit of a, just like I mentioned with the previous tracks, there's a passage going on. Ari asked her, "We are living in a completely different time and are much closer to equality. So I found the idea of that fund quite funny." There you go. Let us move on to the next track here, which is the end of the affair, which kind of could relate to Held Down if you, I mean, depending on the lyrics. Let's see.
Max came around one day with very much nothing to say, and so we sat in silence by the road. It took a while to land. He threw his head into his hands and said, "This is too much for man to hold. If you were mine, if you were mine,
Some really nice notes.
I'd let you live your life." Threw my head into his chest. I think we did our best, but now we must make good on words to God.
It's over.
Answered with a weary breath, "No need to say the rest. I fear that we've been lost here for too long. If you were mine, if you were mine,
That's so clear and powerful.
I'd let you live your life." The end of the affair. I tried to keep us there. Shake hands and say goodnight.
Choir-like harmonies are perfect there.
I love you, goodbye. Now let me live my life.
I really like the approach in this track. It is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. But it also captures the scene that's happening here lyrically. The scene of these two lovers and, of course, as per the title, at the end of their affair. They've tried to make this work, and it's not going to. So we're watching them at a very pivotal and climactic and ending moment here in their relationship. And I love how the final outcry. Let me bring this all together. I love how let me do it all together. Max came around one day, very much nothing to say. This is at that end when there's no words. You both know what's happening. You both know what's coming. You're at these words. And so we sat in silence by the road. It took a while to land, right? It took a while to happen. He threw his hands into his hands and said, "This is too much for a man to hold. If you were mine, I'd let you live your life." I think that's such a powerful statement because if we were together, then I'd let you live your life. And, we'd be, because it'd be our life. But you're not mine. Hence the affair. Threw my head into his chest. I think we did our best. But now we must make good on words to God, answered with a wary breath. No need to say the rest. Like I said, this is the time. Words are gone. No más palabras. I fear that we've been lost here for too long. And then here it is. The end of the affair. I try to keep us there. Shake hands and say goodnight. And then here's the big outcry, the big reveal. I love you. Goodbye. Now let me live my life. This is such a powerful moment in the music. And I wanted to do the lyrics first there because specifically right there, man, her voice is just so clear and powerful, direct. There's no room for interpretation. This affair is ending. And in order to, in a sense, purge herself, in a way to not leave any words left unsaid, put everything on the table at this moment because it's not going to happen again, she admits, and not only admitting to him, but also to herself, I love you, and the very next word, goodbye. And now resolution, she says, now let me live my life. No more holding on unnecessarily. No more being held down unnecessarily. See, even if this album isn't necessarily, a concept album or such, there's a lot of connections. There's a lot of threads to be traced. Kind of like when you watch Law and Order and they got all the strings on the board there with the crime scene and everything. There's a lot of strings on this one. And speaking of strings, I really like the guitar playing and how perfectly it rose in volume with the intensity of the music and what she's singing and saying. I love how the guitar perfectly captured that. The choir-like vocals from her in that final moment are out of this world. And then it all just pitters out. That's some good stuff. Let's move on into the next track. Hope we meet again. Hopefully this is not connecting from the track we just listened to. Or it could be. It could be.
I've lived my life in fits and spurts. Maybe I've had more than I deserve. I'm sure I cannot feel much worse. I kept your letter, I read your words. I tried to give you love and truth, but you're acid-tongued, serpent-toothed. I tried to share the map with you, but you knew your way. You had your route. I'll find God in the hands of truth.
That's a great line. And the way the music constantly dredges up.
Left my heart with a man in those eastern woods. He is people shy, but his words are good, and I hope that he won't fade away. I should write to him tomorrow. I wrote that yesterday. Home, this is not a home anymore. You just threw your pieces, they washed up on my shore.
The way she sucked in through her teeth.
I have not lived any other way. It is my right to wander, I might choose to stay. I'll find God in the strangest place. I saw the sign for the old highway. You did cross my mind, but it didn't change.
Love the conversation.
I do hope that we meet again someday. Hope we meet again. I hope you never change. I hope we meet again. Hope you never change.
They got me. They got me with that one. Oh, they really got me. That's a dramatic finish. It's 15 seconds. Gotta let it run. You never know. Oh. That brief ending, that outro, when the drum and the bass came in, was so unexpected. I was not thinking that it was going to come in any capacity like that. But what a wonderful way that did come in. And even before that happened, that melody, especially the end of every single bar, ba-da-ba-da-ba, that very dramatic, kind of suspenseful guitar tone coming through was really, really well done. You're also getting a different kind of delivery from Laura on this track, much more into that conversational, kind of natural speaking voice that you're getting from her here. And here, I haven't mentioned JM again on this video, besides at the beginning, but this is, at least in that direction of delivery that she's known for. And I love the conversationalist tone that Laura takes here, because it adds another sort of realism, naturalness to the music, because here she really is, in a sense, just speaking to us. And I think that she speaks gorgeously. Like, it's a voice that captures you. When she's singing, you're captured. But when she's speaking, you're listening. Okay, you were listening before, but the point is, it's just very, very well done. But like I said, that outro, that's where the money's at. I've lived my life in fits and spurts. Maybe I've had more than I deserve. I'm sure I cannot feel much worse. I kept your letter. I read your words. I tried to give you love and truth, but you're acid-tongued, serpent-toothed. I tried to share the map with you, but you knew your way. You had your route. I like that. I tried to help you, but you already had your own way. I will find God in the hands of the truth. Strong line. Left my heart with a man in those eastern woods. He is people shy, but his words are good. And I hope that he won't fade away. I should write to him tomorrow. I wrote that yesterday. You can't tell me that's not a good line. Home, this is not a home anymore. You just threw your pieces. They washed up on my shore. Like it was never together to begin with. Things that wash up on shore in separate pieces, you think of a shipwreck or some sort of disaster striking it. No, those pieces were thrown like that from the beginning. There never was anything. There never was a home. I have not lived any other way. It is my right to wander. I might choose to stay. I will find God in the strangest place. I saw the sign for the old highway. You did cross my mind, but it didn't change. I do hope that we meet again someday. Hope we meet again. I hope you never change. I hope that we meet again. Hope you never change. So even though she says, I hope we meet again, she's also acknowledging that this person, they have their own route. And maybe they're not the most friendliest. Your acid tongue and serpent tooth. You know, there's a lot of negative connotations and words. But at the same time, she says he's people shy. His words are good. You know? And she even says that her heart is with this particular person. So even though there's these, you know, negative things happening around this relationship, and it's definitely not the best, whatever this relationship might be, she still says, I hope you don't change. I hope you are you. If anything, you're honest and you are who you are and you're not pretending to be someone else. And I like that about you, even if I don't always like everything about it. And I hope that we meet again someday. But for now, we're going to go our own separate ways, like Journey. Let's go ahead and move on to the final track on the album, which is going to be For You. Could this also relate to the title of the album, Song for Our Daughter? And now this is once again directly to you. All right.
I drew pictures of you long before I met you, just a fragment of my mind. I had called out for you almost every night. Precious things are hard to find. It was just an evening, much like any else, when you came into my life. It takes one to know one, and I saw you there, as I had seen you all my life. I thank a God I've never met, never loved, never wanted you. I write it so I don't forget, never let it get away. I wear a picture of you just to keep you safe.
Some very nice resonance in the humming. Now her joining in. That's nice.
Now that I have you, I will not forget what a miracle you are. No childish expectation, love is not the answer, but the line that marks the start. I thank a God I've never met, never loved, never wanted. I write it so I don't forget, never let it get away. I keep a picture of you just to keep you safe.
Sweet little guitar solo at the very end here. There's the bass at the very end. There's a little synth here at the end too.
I thank a God I've never met, never loved, never wanted. I write it so I won't forget, never let it get away. I keep a picture of you just to keep you safe. I thank a God I've never met, never loved, never wanted.
Like however the guy is now singing with her.
I sing it so I won't forget, never let it get away.
Or
I
actually
keep
could
a
just be her.
picture of you just to keep you safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Laura Marling, Song for Our Daughter, album listen, completed. This was a pleasantly draining album to listen to. I genuinely mean that in the best way possible, because I'm in it. I'm listening. I'm reading. I'm involved, and there's just so much happening. It tugs at your heart. It leaves you like, you know, some movies you watch and you walk out that theater. You might sit there for a second, as a matter of fact, and you just don't know what to think because you've been hit. You know, and I think that this hits a lot of emotions in many different ways. And we end on a very beautiful, positive note here with this song to what I mean, I'm still thinking to, you know, her daughter here, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. So the resonance of those harmonies is the first thing that is standing out there. And just stacked on each other. At one point, she even joins in. And I love how you can hear her voice clearly through that. She stops singing and she just, right? It's just really nice. And I think that that's such a soothing melody, right? As if that she's, you know, singing this directly to her daughter, and she's, you know, she sings the words, but then sometimes you just hum, you know? And I think that that's really nice in how that it kind of captures that almost a fourth wall breaking. Like, she's just humming to her daughter. You know, you just hum the melody. You don't need the words all the time. Baby may not even understand words at that particular point. And I think that that's so wonderful. What I thought was kind of cool as well, and it killed my theory near the end of the track, but unless I'm mistaken, it's not until near the final minute or so that there's not even a bass being played. Why have a bass when you have so much resonance from the why have a bass? And so I thought it was kind of cool that, at least from what I could tell, I didn't hear one in there until it did come in near the end, which also you get a little bit of synth at the very end of this track as well. Kind of comes out of nowhere, but I'm okay with that. Ethan John's going to be handling that as well, from what I can tell. It's just a really nice finale to an album that's gone through so many different emotions, and worthy emotions, as life is filled with emotions, and raising a child and the relationships that are talked about and spoken of in here. Just as those have so many different ways they can go and relate and emotions, I think that the album has captured all those wonderfully, and this track kind of captures a really nice, sweet ending. I drew pictures of you long before I met you. Just a fragment of my mind. I had called out for you almost every night. Precious things are hard to find. Can I say something really quick? I love this line here because, I mean, these are old pictures. This is old now, but you know, got this happening, right? And I'm keeping a journal, and I'm keeping a journal that I'm just gonna keep on writing in for as long as I can, and filling it up with just different like notes to, you know, my child and just different thoughts and experiences and things. And at some point in the way down years later, I'm going to give them that journal that I kept and started writing months ago of just my thoughts and my feelings and things like that. And so when I see things like this, I haven't met the child yet. I haven't met my son yet, but I'm already, and even beforehand, I was already thinking about them, you know? I had called out for you almost every night. Precious things are hard to find. It was just an evening, much like any else, when you came into my life. It takes one to know one, and I saw you there as I had seen you all my life. Like somehow you were always there, that dream, that person, that baby. I thank a God I've never met, never loved, never wanted for you. I love that line, by the way. Like, have no interest in God or religion or anything like that. It's at the same time, I still thank him because I wanted nothing to do with that, but for you, I got to thank somebody. I write it so I don't forget, never let it get away. I wear a picture of you just to keep you safe. Almost like wearing a locket with a picture of them inside. Now that I have you, I will not forget what a miracle you are. No childish expectation. Love is not the answer, but the line that marks the start. Hold on, I might have to click this annotation. No childish expectation. Love is not the answer, but the line that marks the start. Oh, okay. I'm just reading it wrong. Love is the beginning. That's the line that marks the start. There's so much more after that words can't express. Okay, I got it now. I was reading it like love isn't the answer. I'm like, wait, what are we saying here? Chorus repeats, chorus repeats, chorus repeats. Let's actually look into this one here. It says the final song on the album written to an imaginary child who was portrayed as a newborn infant in this instance. Of course, she expresses her gratitude. It says, For You is a little musical homage to Paul McCartney. Marling was a late convert to the former Beatle, having previously been a steadfast John Lennon fan. Okay, so I don't know how. I couldn't tell you how this is a musical homage to Paul McCartney, but in some capacity it is. Now, we actually haven't even looked at like a lot of the information on the album because I wanted to keep myself away from it, so I had a pure, unfiltered look at the music and the lyrics and kind of thinking, I want to just get I like to read things after if possible. So it can't be overlooked that we saw all this chart information. Look at that. Just awards, nominations. That's awesome. Shortlisted for the 2020 Mercury Prize and was nominated for Best Folk Album at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards. Marling described the album as stripped of everything that modernity and ownership does to it. Essentially a piece of me. And that's, of course, where all that intimacy comes from. The songs are written to an imaginary child, with Marling stating it allowed for her to offer her all the confidences and affirmations I found so difficult to provide myself. She was inspired by Maya Angelou's book, Letter to My Daughter, which she read a few years before the album's release. Marling, however, later gave birth to a daughter in 2023, just 3 years later, rather. All written by Marling. However, the title track and For You feature additional songwriting by George Jeffson. You know he heard a George Jetson joke too many times. While The End of the Affair features additional songwriting credit by Blake Mills, who produced her previous album. The songs were demoed in her basement in London, co-produced with Ethan Johns, as we heard. And there's some other information there. All right, compared to her previous album, it's more sparse and starkly minimal in its arrangements. Her vocals are accompanied mostly by acoustic guitar. Of course, she employs a lot of intricate harmony vocals, which I loved, especially, Held Down is a good one. All right, Alexandra is inspired by Leonard Cohen's song. We read that one. Let's see. She says, he writes about women in such a beautiful way. It doesn't aggravate me that he lived the way he wanted to live. In fact, I think it's very brave of people to live that way. Only the Strong borrows a line from Robert Ick's adaptation of the Schiller play, Mary Stuart, which Marling wrote the music for. The song Hope We Meet Again was originally written for the play's haunting finale. Interesting. We read about Paul McCartney. Here we go. Song for Our Daughter, the actual title track, was influenced by Marling's recent studies in psychoanalysis. And concerns innocence being taken away prematurely and preparing the next generation in a way that you weren't. Which, like I said, I think that that's a fantastic theme, not only in that track, but I still think that in many ways it kind of connects to a lot of the other songs as well. That passing on of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. Fortune is about a powerless woman unable to express or escape her circumstance, and is inspired by, of course, the Running Away Fund. The End of the Affair is about the infinite nature of love and the idea of a private mourning of love which cannot be shared. The song style is a reference to Graham Greene's novel of the same name. And we have finally mentioned For You, which features her boyfriend playing guitar. It says it was recorded at home on the fly on her laptop and is included on the album in its original demo form. So perhaps that's why it also has a little bit of an air of kind of production roughness, we'll say. More lo-fi sound to an extent there. And like I said, just absolutely brilliant ratings on this all around from many, many places. I thought that said Junji Ito. I said, what is he doing here? Anyways, Sheldon and everyone else, thank you so much for the recommendation. Thank you for the support and the sponsorship. That means a lot. And like I said, with an album like this, with Marling, I knew it was going to be a good time in some capacity. I still think my favorite song still is Only the Strong. I just think that hits So many wonderful notes. I think that is very much easily at the top of this list. Let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments down below. The sun has gone down. In case you can't tell, the room is much darker. It ain't this dark, but it's dark. Have a wonderful day. Press the like button before you head out. Subscribe if you haven't already. That's it. Have a great one, guys. I'll see you all later. Bye. We have fun here, you know?